vamos a empezar. Bueno, pues muchas gracias por veniros en una fecha ya tan mala, en la que entre cenas de Navidad, pues eso, iba a decir cañas de Navidad también, todas las cosas de Navidad y bueno, que ya estamos un poco con la mente ya más pensando en las vacaciones, pues muchas gracias por acercaros a esta presentación. Vamos a dedicar 10-15 minutos a contaros un poco lo que es la competición, lo que va a ser la competición de creación de empresas el año que viene, el programa de creación de empresas de la Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, y después pues vamos a contar con la experiencia de Joe Wilson. Hi Joe, sorry for this Spanish 10 minutes. Okay. Pues contaremos un poco con la experiencia de Joe. Joe es un emprendedor en serie, ha fundado varias empresas de tecnología, es un experto en el tema de media, de juegos, de 3D, una persona que además ha trabajado lanzando productos tecnológicos para varias empresas de lo que es el Fortune 500, el Fortune 500, lo que viene a ser aquí pues un IBEX 35, pero en Estados Unidos es 500. La cuestión es que bueno, pues Joe actualmente trabaja como Senior Director en Microsoft para lo que es la zona europea, y yo creo que es una persona perfecta de la que vamos a poder aprender mucho esta noche. La charla se trata de que sea pues una charla muy dinámica, muy rápida, incluso si luego tenéis preguntas, pues yo creo que casi es lo más interesante, incluso que aprovechéis, porque además veo aquí varios emprendedores para que tratéis de incluso preguntar a Joe. No problem if they ask you rough questions.
As long as I can give rough answers.
Así que, bueno, pues lo dicho, muchas gracias, y os presento un poco lo que va a ser el programa de creación de empresas. Veréis, en creación de empresas estamos evolucionando hacia lo que es innovación de forma pues ya más general, dentro de lo que es precisamente esta iniciativa de creación de empresas. Hemos estado generando ya un ecosistema alrededor de esta universidad, en la que pues bueno, lanzamos iniciativas de apoyo a toda la gente que tiene ideas tecnológicas o no, pero todas ellas innovadoras. Tenemos iniciativas para generar esas ideas, trabajamos con muchas empresas, con brokers, localizamos las barreras y las superamos, y en definitiva alcanzamos el mercado. Bueno, pues para los que no conozcáis un poco las cifras de la universidad, pues deciros que la Universidad Politécnica de Madrid pues es líder en lo que es proyectos europeos de investigación, número 1 en patentes en España, también el año pasado, número 1 en creación de empresas tecnológicas, igualmente en la temporada anterior. Somos 21 escuelas, 13 centros, 13 centros de I+D, 3.500 profesores, 224 grupos de investigación, 37.500 estudiantes de grado y 3.500 estudiantes de posgrado. Alrededor de todo esto también estamos montando muchas iniciativas, como es el Parque Científico y Tecnológico, un centro exclusivo, un edificio exclusivo de apoyo a la innovación tecnológica, incubadoras, centros para el establecimiento físico de empresas, living labs, laboratorios vividos para que los usuarios puedan interactuar con las tecnologías y den incluso su feedback en esas tecnologías. Es decir, queremos con esos living labs el llevar la tecnología a lo que es el usuario final, y el que el propio usuario final pueda darse su impresión, sus comentarios, sus dudas, sus propuestas de mejora a esas tecnologías. Nuestras cifras un poco en lo que ha sido el programa de creación de empresas, pues ahí lo tenéis, en los últimos años 1.000 ideas detectadas, 90 empresas creadas en los últimos años, 16 millones de euros de inversión solo desde desde 2007, 12 partners, bueno, algunos de los cuales pues están aquí hoy con nosotros, ¿de acuerdo? Son empresas con las que estamos trabajando ya directamente en lo que es precisamente esta generación de ideas en la universidad. ¿Cómo llevar esa tecnología al mercado, que era la diapositiva anterior? Es, bueno, superando todas esas barreras, detectando una necesidad, viendo si la tecnología realmente puede realmente superar esa necesidad, encontrando un equipo con el que trabajar para realmente poner en marcha ese proyecto, encontrando financiación y alcanzando el mercado. Con esas necesidades, con ese ecosistema, con esa consolidación de alianzas, sí que esperamos cada vez más no solo ya generar ideas, no solo hacer formación, sino realmente pensar en global y empezar a internacionalizar todos estos proyectos. Veréis, dentro de lo que es precisamente y con esto yo creo que voy a terminar un poco lo que es la parte así más institucional, dentro de lo que era el programa de creación de empresas, pues a partir de ahora nos vamos a llamar área de innovación, aunque también estará metida creación de empresas ahí, área de innovación, comercialización y creación de empresas. Nos dedicaremos precisamente a eso, a desarrollar marketing de tecnologías, a promover activamente esa comercialización en forma de análisis y estudios. Nos dedicaremos también a comercialización y, por supuesto, a la creación de empresas. Dentro de lo que es el propio programa de creación de empresas, que es un poco también de lo que venimos a hablar hoy, lanzamos nuevamente la 8ª edición de la competición actúaupm. Organizaremos múltiples jornadas y seminarios. Hemos tenido cerca de 2.500 asistentes durante el año 2010 a lo que han sido las jornadas y seminarios del programa de creación de empresas. Estaremos muy activos en las redes sociales, potenciaremos, lanzaremos, relanzaremos el club de emprendedores, daremos más premios, colaboraremos con más agentes, etc. La competición vuelve a tener la estructura por fases que siempre ha tenido, ¿de acuerdo? Fases 1, 2, 3 y 4. Al principio nos centraremos en lo que es la fase de la idea, y en eso, pues si nos conocéis o si nos habéis trabajado con nosotros alguna vez, se trata simplemente de escribir en un dossier de 2 páginas cuál va a ser nuestra idea, cómo vamos a trabajar con ello. Esta competición que nosotros lanzamos dentro del programa de creación de empresas no requiere proyectos consolidados, lo que requiere son ideas para que trabajemos con ellas. Eso sí, pondremos una serie de filtros, y por eso lo llamamos competición, porque realmente lo que queremos valorar es aquellos proyectos que demuestran más compromiso, que demuestran más potencial, que demuestran más viabilidad de alcanzar el mercado, y será una competición de todos contra todos. Aquellos equipos que pasen a la fase 2 pues recibirán una formación específica en lo que es cómo crear una empresa, y ahí sí que también nos centramos mucho en no queremos ni mucho menos el que abandonéis vuestras actividades actuales, ya sean clases, ya sea investigación, ya sea lo que sea, sino que podáis adaptar toda esta formación y todos estos recursos al desarrollo de vuestra propia idea, con el fin de elaborar un plan de negocio. Aquellos equipos que elaboren un plan de negocio pasarán a una fase de formación más avanzada. ¿Con qué objetivo final? El que realmente en esta última fase, pasar de la fase 3 a la fase 4, pues podáis decidir si tiene sentido de verdad montar la empresa o no. Veréis, esta es la diapositiva que define un poco, y yo casi con eso voy a terminar, voy a pasar el resto de la presentación muy rápido. Esta es la diapositiva la que define un poco cómo trabajar dentro del programa de creación de empresas. Este es el caos que os os proponemos. Y como veis, no se trata solo de entrar en un programa en el que, bueno, recibir unas clases y desarrollar un informe y presentarlo, sino que tenemos múltiples colaboraciones a lo largo de todo el programa. Después de lo que es la fase de detección de ideas, ¿de acuerdo?, daremos 10 premios de 1.000 euros cada uno a los 10 mejores proyectos, y daremos también este año, gracias a una colaboración con la empresa Microsoft, un premio Imagine, ¿de acuerdo?, una categoría nueva, pues precisamente más fundamentada en lo que es el desarrollo de software. Una vez pasada esta fase, es una fase de presentar ese dossier de dos hojas, pasaremos a la siguiente, enseñaremos a la gente a hacer un pitch, ¿de acuerdo? E incluso trataremos de poner en marcha un pitch contest, aquellos proyectos que sean capaces de describir su idea en tan solo 2 minutos, ¿de acuerdo? Hay que ser capaz en cualquier momento de describir una idea en 2 minutos. Un pitch contest los grabaremos incluso, los colgaremos en la web y trataremos incluso de elegir quién ha sido capaz de hacer el mejor pitch. A partir de ahí, lo haremos todo en paralelo, aunque lo hayamos puesto aquí lineal, entraremos en lo que es la fase de formación. Nuestro objetivo este año es llegar a 150 equipos que entren en esa fase, ¿de acuerdo? Contamos con la colaboración de la Escuela de Negocios IEN, ¿de acuerdo?, uno de los sponsors, y contaremos también este año con la colaboración de la empresa Global Incubator, que introduce una herramienta bastante novedosa para lo que es el apoyo a la realización del plan de negocio, ¿de acuerdo? Además de toda esta formación, todos los equipos tienen un asesor personal para lo que es su proyecto, un asesor que se encargará de ver cómo es la evolución de ese proyecto, si realmente se avanza, si no se avanza, si se están cumpliendo los hitos o si no se están cumpliendo. Y aquellos proyectos que realmente alcancen una serie de requisitos, pues incluso tendrán la oportunidad, ¿de acuerdo?, de recibir el asesoramiento de un tutor. Hemos llevado a un acuerdo con la Escuela de Negocios para que estudiantes MBA puedan participar, puedan asesorar, puedan realmente indicar qué tipo de mejoras, qué tipo de aspectos hay que potenciar en ese plan de negocio. Y para aquellos proyectos con un muy alto potencial, lanzamos también una iniciativa muy novedosa que es el Expert Lab, el laboratorio de expertos. Para aquellos proyectos con muy alto potencial, trataremos de que puedan encajar, de que puedan recibir el asesoramiento de un experto, preferiblemente una empresa que conozca el sector, una persona que conozca el sector, una persona que pueda conocer bien qué es lo que es lanzar una empresa. El plan de negocio, formación para aquellos proyectos que elaboren el plan de negocio, y al final premios, ¿de acuerdo? Premios para los mejores planes de negocio. En este proyecto, y cuando llegamos donde veis la última, en este punto, donde veis la última casillita, hemos ya, a 10 proyectos de este año, ya han entrado en contacto con inversores, y algunos de ellos incluso tienen ofertas de inversión, ¿de acuerdo? Es el final del ciclo, en el que además pues haremos un uso intensivo de las redes sociales, organizaremos conferencias y jornadas con empresas como Accenture, que es nuestro sponsor principal, Factoría FDI Internet and Mobile, la empresa SAGE, Axon Capital, Xavier Venture Capital o RCD Asesores, ¿de acuerdo? Ese es un poco el ecosistema que forma la competición. Como esta presentación la colgaremos, yo no me voy a extender más. I'm going to stop here right now. No me voy a extender más. Recordaros que la competición está en marcha, que existen múltiples servicios aparte de los premios por los que merece mucho la pena realmente participar, que realmente conoceréis gente muy interesante, y no solo emprendedores de éxito, no solo gente tan interesante como yo y Wilson, sino gente con la que estáis en contacto, gente de otras escuelas. Para que os hagáis una idea, el año pasado participaron 260 equipos en la séptima competición de creación de empresas. ¿De acuerdo? 260 equipos de todos los centros y escuelas de la universidad. Poco más. I'm going to stop here. So,
You said that before.
yeah, I'm going to stop here right now. Yes, now for true. Y voy a pedir a Enrique, por favor, de Microsoft, que se presente y que presente también a Joe Wilson. Pues nada, muchas gracias.
Bueno, hoy tenemos a Joe como un excelente ejemplo de emprendedor, aunque ahora se ha pervertido y está trabajando en una gran corporación, pero yo creo que es fantástico tener a gente como él. Y para mí, además de ser un auténtico flashback, mi número era 82, 182, y no sé si ha cambiado. En aquella época el número 82 significaba algo, pero en cualquier caso es un placer estar aquí en mi escuela, y nada más voy a switch to English so we can introduce the man. And the other thing I want to say, we have a guy who speaks American. Yes.
Not English?
Not English, American.
Okay,
But you need to
that's
know
fine.
that Microsoft
Try to speak
Spain,
slow.
Yes.
Spaniards like me are here to help you as well. Okay, so we have here Joe because he's a great example of an entrepreneur. I think you're going to learn things today. I think you're going to be a little surprised by his presentation.
We'll see.
But you need to know tomorrow when he leaves, okay, he's leaving, but you still have Microsoft Spain here to help. We have programs, and we don't want access to software, to services. We don't want any of that to be an obstacle in your run to create great products, great ideas. Okay, so we'll be here. Alfonso, Elisa, you have two more people from the Spanish subsidiary. So, as I said, we're here to help you, and we are very honored to work with the UPM, la Universidad in this wonderful effort. So, Joe,
Okay.
they are all yours. You don't
I've got this. That's right.
Yes.
Before I start, there's a ceremony that we have to perform for Microsoft that's kind of has really nothing to do with you, but we're going to do it since we're here. I was talking to Enrique. So I'll explain my background. I'm an entrepreneur by background and now working at Microsoft. Okay, English so far? It's okay, because that's all I got. I'll slow down a little. And I now manage about 14 countries on behalf of Microsoft, with 14 countries and 12 subsidiaries. And for the last 12 weeks, maybe? No, not quite, 10 weeks, I've been traveling to all of those countries to meet our people and to meet them in person and to work with them on things like this and other parts of our business. The 12th country is Spain. And as you can see by looking at my laptop, there's one blank spot on the laptop. So I would suggest, Enrique, you film this, and you can send this to your other people in Microsoft, because we're going to actually put the flag on in front of other people as a ceremony for completing this journey to meet all of the people in the organization. If I can open the flag. Sticker, yeah. So you can see it won't mean much to you guys, but inside of our company, it's important. We've been out to visit everyone here, and you can see we even cover up Portugal a little bit in order to do that. Yeah, I'm sure they'd be really happy about that. It's their fault for giving me that type of sticker. So you can see now, and every time that I visit one of our offices, no matter what they ask me to do speeches, work on the hard business problems, I then write a report about that. Not a business report, a people report, which is who did I meet? Where did we go? What did we talk about? Where did we have dinner? It was strange things that happened in Switzerland that I wrote about. So it's kind of a fun moment for us because this is the last country of the 12 to do that. So We've now done that. We can post the video and send it to our friends, and now I'll get on with the talk. But you were a part of that. It was fun for us. So let me switch over. So you can see that what I'm going to talk about is going to be a little less traditional. So tonight I'm going to tell you 10 big lessons that I've learned from running companies, some small, some big. And they're not going to be nice lessons. They're going to be the hard stuff, the real stuff. So I thought about what I should talk about. Should I talk about Microsoft technology? I could. Should I talk about, raising money? I raised about $20 million over the course of 5 different companies. I could talk about that. I could talk about, products that we made. But I thought more useful would be what did I learn? So if you're considering, how many people run a company and how many people are considering this? You can answer both or one or the other. Some are sort of like, I don't know yet. We'll see. So this is going to be for the people who, a little late, but okay. He's like, maybe. I'll tell you tomorrow. So these are going to be information that I learned from running 5 different companies before I came to Microsoft. So 10 things no one tells you. I will start with not Christmas pictures, but my background. So before coming to Microsoft 5, 6 years ago, this was what I had done. So this first one was in university. So I started my first company when I was in university. Now, I didn't start it really because I was a great entrepreneur. I think I started it because I needed money. That was the real reason. In the U.S., of course, we pay for all of our university ourselves, or maybe if you're lucky, your parents do that. I came from a very, very poor family in the U.S. My family was farmers and people, service people. So there was no way they could afford for me to go to university. So I had to find a way to pay for that. And I worked while I was in what we call high school, secondary school. And I saved enough money for half of the first year. And also know, I was the first person in the history of my family to ever go to university, ever. And so this was a big deal. I was, wow, what a success. No one knew I only had half a year worth of money. So I had to figure out something. So while I was there, I had always worked with my hands. My father we had installed fences and we worked for other people. That's what we did. So I took those skills and I started a company called Fix-It, which was to go do home repairs and improvements. Not very technical. But I would take, I would drive around in my car and I would take a flyer, a little piece of paper, and I would hang it on the door of the sort of rich people's houses, and I would say, I saw your fence was broken, I could fix that for $50. And they would ask me to, some people would call, some people wouldn't call. If they would call, I would go to the house, then I would say, and oh yeah, your ceiling and your door and this. And so I could make like $300 every time someone called. I could turn that into something. So I could make the money. When I graduated university, I sold the company. I had 10 people working for me, and I sold the company for $300,000 US. And I learned my first lesson about running a company. Sell for a profit. Because when I sold it, I owed $310,000 US on equipment and insurance and things like that. So what sounds like a lot of money was actually not so much money because I had to pay as much as I took in for the company. But I learned something. I learned that I could start a company, that I could run a company, that it was possible for a student to do it anywhere. And it wasn't a genius idea. It was just hard work. So it could be done. So a dream came to life. This could be done. So I started another one. The second company was with some friends, and it was about doing package delivery, right? Delivering packages. So we would have a more technical system, and we had radios and people in cars. We'd pick up packages and we'd deliver packages. When I left that company, it was in 6 cities. So we grew this to 6 cities. The next company was a consulting company where we served big clients. The next company was a marketing firm where we launched technology products for startup companies. So we'd become the marketing department, and they would pay us a fee plus a part of their equity. So they could afford really professional marketing services even if they didn't have enough money. The problem with that model was we did that right when the internet bust happened and all that equity wasn't worth anything, so that company didn't last too long. And then the last one was probably my most technical company, and that was a 3D company. We wrote software, we built a internet web plugin, and we designed a tool that did interactive 3D. Very technical in order to do that. And that's where I learned probably a majority of some of these lessons I'm going to talk about. But that just gives you some background. So when I come to you today to talk about this, it comes with some experience. Now today I run these countries, for Microsoft, and I focus on the technical audiences. So the work with software companies and systems integrators and those types of things. So that's what I do today. And someday I may go run another company. We'll see. So let's start. First lesson, number 1. Number 10 is the best one, just so you know. Number 1. If you want to run a company, you will never have enough time, enough people, or enough money. Never. So don't think that way. Don't start thinking, well, if we just had 5 more people, or if I could just get, 100,000, euros in investment. Never think that way. It is the kiss of death. Plan big, dream big, and execute every single step. Because if you start out thinking, I need this and I need this, it's sort of like, there's a famous saying for parents, when do you have enough money to have a baby? You never have enough money to have a baby. It doesn't happen. You just have a baby. So it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. You can't wait for it to be a little better. You have to go now. So you'll never have enough. You won't. Because what happens is you raise some money, and then suddenly, I don't have enough for this or for that. So you have to execute. Think about my first company, right? Flyers, knocking on doors. There's nothing sophisticated in a business plan about that. Sold it for $300,000, right? So it can grow. The idea is the most important first step. But be clear about that. Number 2. This is an interesting one, especially for young entrepreneurs. I went in Finland to a startup boot camp, right? And they had spent 2 weeks with students teaching them about starting companies. And those students had sort of decided, what happens is 3 or 4 people get together and one person says, okay, we're going to start a company. I'm the CEO. And you're the technical guy, and you're going to do planning or something, because you seem organized. Okay, so I'm the CEO. They start like that, and it's the worst way to start. The CEO is never the CEO, and the first person who thinks they're the CEO is usually the first person who leaves, because their value might be low. Compared to someone who's building software or building technology or something like that. So just remember, when you think to yourself, man, I'm so good, I can do this. No, you're not, but you can be. The lesson is to know thyself. How good am I? What do I not know? Be very afraid about what you don't know, because that's how you get good. Being scared about what you don't know is how you really, really, really get good at something. This is a lesson across all these. The second part is very important. If you fall in love with starting a company, it doesn't mean that you're going to run it. And if you want to be successful, you have to be okay with that. Sometimes you will. Mark Zuckerberg still runs Facebook, kind of. The two guys who founded Google, not so much. But that's okay. Bill Gates, maybe one of the few that made it all the way through and then retired and becomes chairman, or became chairman then retired. It's just it's important to know that. That's okay. Starting a company is very different than running it. And some people are very good at starting and very bad at running. But that's okay. You find your place and you decide. I love starting companies. And I got good at running them, but there are other people who are better at running companies than me. And that's okay. But this is a very important one. It was hard. It was a hard one. Because you think to yourself, no, it's my baby. I can do this. I'm going to run this. But there may be other people who can do it really well. And then you get a bigger company and you get a bigger opportunity because you were smart enough to get out of the way. Number 3. Oh, there's a second part. So we were, in the Anark company, we were at one time 60 people. 60 people. And we had a couple of critical decisions to make. So we're a 3D platform, kind of like a Flash or Adobe products or something like that, just so you understand. And we were built all on PC, and a lot of designers use Mac. So we decided we wanted to have another version of our software on the Mac. So the people who use Mac could design on our software. We decided to do that. It took much longer than we thought. Apple's not great at supporting developers. It's not their business model. It took much longer than we thought. It burned a lot of cash that we had. And then at the point when we're almost ready to release that version, we had a financial problem, and we had to make a decision. And a company of 65 people went to a company of 35 people. That fast. 6 months. All because the executives made a decision. So we had to go look in the eyes of people, 30 people, and tell them they had to leave the company, and it was our fault because we made the decision. So when you think about running things, or you think about managing things, and you talk about firing people, sometimes leaders or managers get very nervous. I got to fire somebody. Trust me, that's easy. When it's your fault and you have to lay them off and let them go, and they're good, that's much, much harder. So keep that in mind. I know everybody's like, why the hell would I want to start a company? But it's a true lesson. It may not be. What happens? I'll give you an example. We also run a program called the Imagine Cup. I think you spoke a little bit about that. There was one year the winner of the Imagine Cup was a team from Russia. And they built a technology in Windows Media Player that did streaming so that musicians could practice in real time from different parts of the world. Right? So I could sit in my house, Enrique could sit in his house, and we could play and practice as a band using video and audio streaming like this. And they went out, they won the Imagine Cup competition, the worldwide competition. They had money, and literally they had fame, and they were read about in papers by over 100 million people around the world. They were contacted by VCs. It just become like technical rock stars overnight. The VCs, the investors, came to them and they said, we're really interested in investing in your company, but we don't care anything about the music stuff. And the guys were like, what? What are you talking about? What they cared about was that this group of students had figured out how to reduce the risk or the latency in technical terms, that was involved with streaming. They took streaming and made it 10 times more efficient to stream information. So it wasn't the music that they cared about. It was voice over IP, telecommunications, video streaming, video conferencing, big businesses that already existed. So this was the thing. They had fallen in love with the idea of getting musicians to play together, but they built a company that did telecommunications. But it was a very interesting thing. Now, they had to be flexible enough to change that idea and let go. Now, they've done pretty well, and mostly with the technology. Not necessarily with the company, but with the technology. So it's an interesting, if you're flexible, if you're willing to change, you can find success. I think of this sometimes like mountain climbers, people who climb, who go up mountains. There's usually a route, that you follow. But a lot of things happen along the way. If you really want to make it to the top, you have to be willing to change and move around. And if you do that, then you can become successful. No single company. Take Facebook. It's a great example. We're going to be on Harvard, and we'll be at Harvard University, and we're going to be a place for gossip so that you can sort of see what that girl looks like or what that guy looks like. That's why it's called Facebook. It's a gossip. That's what it was. Now, the largest social network in the world, a lot of steps along the way to change that to what it became. If you get the opportunity to run the company, to start the company, to get going, this is one of the biggest mistakes everyone makes. I don't care if you're 3 people or if you're 3,000 people. You will make this mistake. What will happen is you'll raise a little bit of money, right? You'll pick up, someone gives you 100,000 euros because this is a great idea and they want you to start a company for real. And you'll stop and you'll be like, okay, we need people. That guy's great, but he's too expensive. It's a big mistake. I would hire fewer people that were more expensive and talented than I would to hire a lot of people who are less expensive. More people is not always better. The right people is the right decision. And customer service is the same. In our small company that did the 3D technology, we were competing with Adobe. We took 10 points of market share in the 3D space. They had a product called Director. We took 10 points of market share as a small 35-person company from this giant $300 million a year company. And you know how we did it? We answered the phone when people called. And everyone in the company did customer service. The phone would ring and you're like, what? Oh, yeah. Hi. Yeah, the Anark customer service. How can I help you? That's how we did it. And we beat them on service. So people felt like they could do something with our product. Somebody was on the other end of the phone, or today more so you'd be on the other end of the forum or the blog or whatever that was. So that was the thing that we learned along the way, and we sort of stumbled across it. We realized that we were picking up customers because of it, and they were talking to other people. So that was a big deal. But it's one of the first places everyone underinvests. And it will be one of the biggest financial mistakes you might make if you get the chance to run a company. Keep this one in mind. Does anyone know what that means? We need some interactivity. What does that mean? You don't get the answer. Microsoft people don't get the answer. What do you think it means? So if you don't know what it means, there's a great lesson in here. When you're in a small company, however few people, 2, 20, you will not motivate people because they're making a big fat paycheck. You'll have to motivate with something else. So if you have the best strategy in the world and the best product in the world, and you can beat any of the competition out there, and people who work in the company are not absolutely in love with what you're doing, it won't matter. So this means when you lead, when you operate leading and you're managing and you're doing this, you have to have a cause. Startup companies need a cause. You have to be out to change the world. Anything less than that's not going to matter. A simple, small technical change in an industry, who cares? But if we can get every college student in the world to go online and see each other, and we can create a social network that can take over the world practically, yeah, that's kind of cool. In our space, we were revolutionizing the web. We were changing everything you did on the web to make it 3D. So we had a cause. And all of the companies that do great, they have a cause. So you have to figure out in your company, what is the cause? What is it you're really trying to do that matters? Not just, what is the small thing that I'm putting in the market that doesn't matter? No successful company starts out without a cause. People fall in love with the company in the early days. And if you're lucky, a company like ours, later on, people stay in love with that company. I know we have our troubles in the brands and all that type of stuff, but if you work inside of Microsoft, you feel like you're an entrepreneur every day. We can do anything because it's such a large organization. So you retain that feeling. All right. The interactive part didn't go so well. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't matter. That sounds, if you're a technical person, that sounds very, come on, really. When I say it doesn't matter, I mean literally, it won't matter. If nobody wants to buy it, it's not a good plan. It's not a good plan at all. There's a problem if nobody wants to buy it. So when you build something, you have to think about who's going to buy it. And it has to be someone who would have a reason to buy that or to use it. There has to be a purpose. There's a very famous inventor named Thomas Edison who makes this quote. I don't want to invent it because the selling of it is proof that it's valuable. Now, you'll hear me today and you'll say, duh, of course, that makes plenty of sense. But then go look at your business plan and go look at your definition of your customer and go look at your definition of your product and ask this question again. Who is going to buy it? Do I understand who they are? Okay, maybe. Do I know where they are? Maybe. Can I find them in the millions? Ooh, that's hard. Okay, maybe I can find them in the thousands. Oh, maybe I can find 5 of them. But you really have to know that because there has to be a transaction. And if your dream is, we're just going to build a great technology and another company will buy us, that's a bad dream. Because they don't buy things that don't sell. People don't buy things that don't sell. No, there's no acquisition strategy out there if it's not selling. This is a good formula to know. It's a very good formula to know, and it's very true, especially in the technical side of things. A third more time to make something than you think. Plan it out, add 20%, feel great about it, and then add 33 and a third more percent. Because you don't know what will happen. And then for adoption, and by the way, adoption is a big part of any product or any service that you build. It always takes 3 times longer than you think. It'll take us about a year to get most of the people on the internet to download our plugin. We said that once. Most of the people on the internet to download our plugin. We never actually got to most of the people on the internet. We got to about 20% of them over 5 years because we never had the money that a big company would have. So we couldn't buy our customers into what we were doing. So this is a big one. It's a good formula to keep in mind and know. Even if you're promising, the investor, it's going to be tomorrow, know in your mind what reality is because you're going to have to manage that. And you're going to have to manage the people that are believing in that cause that we talked about. Does anybody know what that means? You know what plan B is? Does that carry culturally? Why the hell would you have a plan B? If you're sitting today saying, well, if this doesn't work, then I'm going to go... No. Bad idea. You're either all in or you're all out. There's nothing in between when you start a company. There's no halfway point. And there's going to be a few of you out there that kind of go, wow, I think he's being extreme because if this thing doesn't work and it's really risky, I need to go over here and do this and do that and do that. Then you're not really cut out for this. Because no company comes into creation or survives because somebody has a back door. The people that make them run, they give it everything they have. And that's the only thing that works. I know, we had a plan B on one company. Guess what? Because we didn't give it enough. We learned that lesson the hard way. So you can't have a plan B. You can't have a back door. there has to be only one definition of success, and that is to take the thing I'm creating and make it work. Will it. Will it to work. Put your energy in, force it to work. Because along the way of starting a company, there are a million things that require decisions. A million places you could go wrong. It's like a bad scavenger hunt. You know, it's very scary all along the way. People, money, legal liability, product development issues, service issues, international, going international, deciding what to do first, what to do second. There's a million decisions. If always in your mind you have a chance to get out, it's also a bad formula for a marriage if you think about it that way too. You know, don't have a plan B. You know, this looks pretty good, honey, but just in case, no. You have to be all in. And that's several of the things I'm telling you tonight won't make sense now. But if you do get the chance to start and run a company, you'll remember some of these. You'll be like, I'm sitting here, we're thinking about hiring this person. It's a really important hire. It's going to cost us a lot of money. And I asked him, well, what do you do if this doesn't work? And this person says, oh, well, I've got this option, this option, this option. Don't hire them. They need to say, you know what? I'm just going to make it work. That's why I'm here. You remember that then. Because you need that type of commitment. The same way, if you're going to give it, you need to get it from the people that are in there. So this is one of those I really like. Okay, so the great super animation. I'm going to do the amazing animation in PowerPoint that nobody can figure out how I do for the next one. And it's the most important lesson, of course, because it's number 10. It's the most important lesson I'm going to give you about what I've learned. And those have been pretty rough. So I know no one's in here going, yeah, this is cool. They're all going like, screw this. Here's the most important lesson. See the cool animation? Woo! It can be done. It can absolutely be done. I am living proof that you can have an idea, you can start a company, you can make money with that, you can start another company, you can start another company. It can be done. But you have to believe it can be done. And you have to put yourself into it. But it can be done. And it will be one of the greatest rewards of your life, even if you fail. Culturally in the U.S., failure is actually seen as a success. It is one of those where if you start a company in the U.S. and it doesn't work out, the experience is highly valued. So of the 5 companies that I started, 2 of them did very, very well. So, we're really happy for that, and so are my kids and my wife. 2 of them, no good, right in the toilet. 1 of them, we'll see. We'll still see how it works out, because we still got a little bit in there, and we'll see what happens over time. And that's a really good average for someone who starts companies. That's like a big success rate. But you have to believe that it will be okay. If it goes down and you did everything you possibly could, the most important thing for you to do is to try again. Because if you have the ability to start one company, you have the ability to start another one. Maybe a better one, maybe a smarter one. Anything is possible here when it comes to this. And a million ideas can make it. And it won't just be the genius of the idea, it'll be the hard work. When venture capital people sit down and they look at investing in companies and they make choices, they will look at the idea, they'll look at the space that it's in, they'll look at the return, they'll look at all these things like they should. Then they'll look at the people. And they'll ask themselves, will this person, these people, kill to make this work? Will they give everything they have? Will they beat their way through every problem? And you have to be those people. And then it's possible. It is completely possible. I got through university. I got to start companies. I got to go on and start other companies. And now I get to kind of come out and do this stuff, which is kind of cool, right? Talk to you guys and make big lessons about startup. A couple more things that I think maybe will help the story a little more. I talked about this company. And I also talked about being flexible, how you climb the mountain and being, let the idea change and follow it. So sometimes the company that you start out making and what you believe it's going to be is not always the company that you end up running. Both things are 3D. Both things are very different. The first one is sort of sexy, cool movie stuff. And the second one is like virtualization and training, that type of stuff. Not quite as sexy and cool, but yet highly profitable. And so, did we still play around with the really sexy, cool graphics? Of course we did. But this became the business. And it was really important that we allowed the business to become what it had to be. Because quite honestly, the other ideas that we had weren't making enough money, and we were burning cash, and we were going to lose people, and investors were, so we had to change. And the opportunities came up to work in this space, and we realized that 3D was really valuable where there was engineering and where there were things like AutoCAD and those types of technologies. And that became our direction. So we turned the business. We changed directions. Some other things for you to know. If you think that we're out of the financial crisis, you're wrong. We are still in a very tough market around the world. And people will ask me, well, why would we start a company now? Everything's so tough and there's no money and the governments are hurting and, what happened in Ireland and that type of stuff. Why would I start a company now? The greatest innovation happens when times are the toughest. And this is a chart that kind of takes you through the stock market from 1870 to present, and you see when companies happened. They didn't happen. I mean, there's nothing going on when everything's fine because the world doesn't need innovation. It's enjoying things happening. It's when things are bad. So now is when the biggest breakthroughs occur. By the way, what does Microsoft, Yahoo, Facebook, Google, Apple, whatever number of companies all have in common? They were started by students. Every single one. The biggest technology companies in the world didn't start in a boardroom with guys in suits. They started in universities with people in t-shirts. It started, that's where they started. That's how they came to be. It can be done. It can absolutely be done. And now is one of the best times in the world to do it. We talk about things that change and you don't expect. Even to someone like Microsoft, that can happen. So you look at what our dream was. We're going to get everybody one of these. Literally, everybody. And that was a huge idea. But it happened, for the most part, in terms of, not everybody, but a whole lot of people. That changed. And the business went into business, and it became enterprise. And it became, today, you look at our company, and you see there's all these devices around the world, and we're anchoring on this idea of 3 screens in a cloud. Our strategy, which was once a PC in every home, is now 3 screens in a cloud. We want all the information that people want to have their hands on to be available on any place they need to be. It's even TV. Yeah, sure, whatever. I'm not offended. Yeah, whatever. And so all the ideas that come around from around the world, what you should be asking big companies is, what are you doing about it? You tell us these great things and the lessons, and what are you doing about it? I'm glad you asked. So we run a series of things. We look across the industry and the things that can affect what can happen. We're a company that got started by students, literally. So we've put together a few things that we do for young companies and for students to help them get going if they want to do it. We're in the software business. So the greatest thing we can give is the software itself. This is what we make our living from, but we take in DreamSpark, students have access to the Microsoft technology and platform, and it's at no cost. In BizSpark, when you start a company, you don't even have to be in school. You also have access to all those tools and platform to do that. And ultimately, if you want to do a web company, you also have the same thing. So we're taking what's most valuable to us, and we're putting it out there to help people start companies and get going. Sure, it's good for us if people build on the platform, but it's better for us if people push the industry. So we're investing, the equivalent of this one alone. Just to give you an example, DreamSpark, which is DreamSpark and a program called MSDNAA together, last year distributed more than 15 million copies of software to students worldwide. 15 million copies. So you take a copy of Office and multiply that times 15 million and figure out how much that is, right? That's a lot, but it has a reason, it has a purpose. It's important. The Imagine Cup I always want to mention, I think there's so few things in the world like this. This is the world's premier student technology competition. Oftentimes, people that want to start companies, this is a place to go compete. And if you get to the worldwide finals, if you make it to what will be in the U.S. this year, I think, yep, up there, USA, that's where the finals is, you are known not only across your country, but you're known around the world. I mean, virtually everyone who makes it to the finals has a list of job opportunities that are very, very long. And the chance of who you can meet and what you can do if you want to start a company, better and better and better. And if you win, oh man, if you win. The Imagine Cup now, from a news perspective, reaches over 250 million people worldwide. So if you win it, 250 million people read about you and what you do. And you know, finding funding and getting that idea into the market is not so hard when you can do something like that. And you've also competed with the best in the world, the absolute best in the world. And by the way, the Imagine Cup is technology for a cause, because it actually uses the Millennium Goals from the UN as the inspiration point. We thought, you know, you can bring students together for technology, but why not do it for a better reason than that? So it's about literally saving the world. Take one of the world's 8 hardest problems and use that as your inspiration point. So as we kind of move on through this, we've seen the lessons. I've sort of shared a little bit about, you know, my personal experience and what's going on. There'll be a lot of opportunities as you go further into, you know, thinking about starting a company and where you're going. The question will be, you know, where do you go and how do you think about technology? A few months ago, Wired magazine in the U.S. put this picture up. And it talks about the web is dead, long live the internet. So what does it mean? So it means how it began and what they expected to do with it is not what we're doing with it. But there's now this giant river of information and data that you can build things on top of. Social networks, enterprise company applications, access to travel data, you know, whatever you want, you can do. The world that's becoming, what's in front of us, is far greater than what's behind us. The opportunities are far bigger than they used to be, ever. And it's a great time to take advantage of that. So really, that's all I got. Thanks. Question? Okay, yeah.
I know the Microsoft people I still know the Microsoft people have a dinner right now, but I think that we have, if you don't mind, five
yeah,
minutes.
If you want to ask questions.
Yeah.
In case I didn't cover everything.
5 minutes for questions, and till the people get brave to ask you a rough question. I would like to ask you one.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe 2.
Okay.
The first one is one about your 5 startups.
Okay.
They seem to be 5 different sectors, 5 very different ideas. I mean, I should say, okay, he's a marketing expert. When I saw your CV, I saw, wow, marketing expert, but your first one was one thing, the second one, another very different thing. I mean, how does you start? When do you decide this is a good opportunity?
It's that question about who's going to buy it. That's the decision, right? If you see an opportunity, you have to, you need to figure out a way to decide you think it's a good opportunity. You can use data, there's research reports and things like that. You can use customers, like, somebody, before we started the courier company, we went to, like 50 companies. We just, in our spare time between jobs, went to the companies and said, hey, we're thinking about starting a new company that does this. Would you be interested in those types of services? Okay, what would you pay for that? Because we didn't know how to price it. And we're like, well, what do you pay for that now? What would you? So we were sort of doing, and then we got smarter. We pretended we were doing surveys. We looked a little more official. And we were like, yes, I'm with the Courier Survey Company, and I just want to ask you these questions. So we did we did some sort of small market research. And then we decided it was a good idea when 48 out of the 50 said yes, or 30 out of the 50 said yes. So you have to do some work to decide if that's a good idea. So I think that's one way that we decided. Because it's easy to fall in love with your own idea. You can say, we're going to make something like this. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Do you think that's cool? That is so cool. And you're in love with it. You're like, oh, come on. This is so cool. Do you guys know how cool this is? And then suddenly you go talk to you're like, hey, look at this cool thing, customer. And the customer's like, that ain't cool. And you're like, but I thought it was cool. And so it works like that. So you have to check with the people who might do the buying.
Customer is king.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Second one. And last one. For me.
It's not so hard.
Okay.
You got more? Come on.
Yeah, I have many. So, you have talked in your presentation. So, congratulations for your presentation. PowerPoint works. So, you've talked about being flexible, but never think about a plan B. I suppose that you're talking about an extreme plan B.
So I talk about, do you want me to answer now or are you still going? Okay.
Being flexible is you have to change. You have to change.
Right. So plan B is how I get out. Plan A is how I make it a success no matter what. So plan B, what it means is, I have a way to get out of this if it doesn't work. Plan A is whatever we have to do, we will make it work. So that's the difference between those two. That's how I meant it to convey it. Don't dream about how you're going to get out. Just dream about how you're going to make it work. Now, you may have to change to make it work, but at some point, you have to be so into making it work that there's no other option.
More questions? I help you.
No, wait. Questions for presentation. Wait. I wonder if this is working at all. I didn't hear it work. Was it? Is it? Oh, it's for the video? All right, got it.
I'll be answering a question, they won't know what you said.
All right. You mentioned 8 areas or problems in the world to be solved. Something about perhaps the UN setting up this list. That. Yeah, the Millennium Goals. Okay. I'm sure you have a slide somewhere with the 8 areas and the 8 problems that we can learn from in terms of, I guess this is some kind of guidance for the students in the competition to focus their efforts.
Are you familiar with the Millennium Goals?
Not at all. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, so that's why you're asking. Sure. So some years ago, 3, 4, 5, maybe more years ago, the UN, the United Nations, got together and they sort of tried to assess what were the most important problems to solve for the world in order to have a more healthy, not just plant-like ecosystem, but environment, but more. And so in a list of what could be 1,000, you can imagine, they decided on 8. And that ranges everywhere from, the quality of education received by someone at a certain grade level, to the health of pregnant mothers in third world countries, to the environment and things like that. So they've made an official list that sort of represents the view of the different nations of the world. And so we happen to, instead of making up our own, use their list as the inspiration point. So I don't have a slide with me today, but we can, in the Imagine Cup site, if you go to imaginecup.com, you'll be able to you'll see the Millennium Goals, and you can click right through and go see it. So it'll take you to that. If you just search UN Millennium Goals, you'll find tons of links to it. But it depends on, I don't know how you feel about saving the world or the different problems. Some people, it's important, some people it's not. I've always thought that's one way that you can give back. If what you create can help solve a bigger problem, like education, it's a pretty cool way to do business.
Do you think that's just an inspirational inspirational goals, or is there a market opportunity really in those areas?
To get into what's being invested in today, let's go to the business conversation. What are venture capital people putting money in today? There is an entire industry of what's called green investment. So the environment. So things that are improving is real business. It's a big business. There's also, it's not green, it's in the medical industry. There's another one, I forget the term, but think of it as like specific health initiatives. Not pharmacology, but like, what is it? E-health is different. E-health is electronic health. How do I solve problems in patient records online? But there's also how do I take on the really hard problems in healthcare, which are things like malaria and some of the diseases in the world. So it's a greater cause type of thing. So there's an entire investment industry specific to that. So there are at least 3 or 4 areas where people invest. They look for that there's a cause behind it in order to invest in it. So it is real serious business, inside of that. So is an inspiration point? Yes, it's also serious business. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Questions?
Hi there.
Hi.
I just had this wonder. Let's say that you started when you was in the university doing this fences company. It is fairly simple if you compare it to a 3D software company.
Yes, it is.
So, but it is it's easier, of course. But have you think about doing backwards? I mean, starting with a bigger company, complex company, rather than a
Sure.
simpler company. How do you manage it? I mean,
Yeah. So if you start with something that's more complicated, first off, great ideas are uncomplicated, right? So there's a company in the U.S. called Walmart. People have probably heard of this. It's a big retail company. Their strategy, their business model is high volume, low price. That's it. So then you figure out how do you get high volume and to get low price. But it's really not complicated. The complicated part comes in setting it up and running it, right? So I think you have to be smart about the idea you choose. If your idea is to invent a laser that will explode Jupiter, probably not a good place to start. If your idea is a new type of online service that provides high value to a lot of people, it can be managed. You can find a way to start one step at a time. Every problem has to be deconstructed, right? And whatever the problem is, whatever the idea is, you have to take it apart like a jigsaw puzzle and understand what the pieces are. And you have to know the pieces. So you can break it down, but I wouldn't go too complex. I wouldn't set out to solve cancer in a startup, at least not my first one.
Thank you very much, Joe. How do you happen to change your mind and leave your entrepreneurial spirit apart for a while and then
Go
get
work for
into a
Microsoft?
huge company like Microsoft?
I get this question a lot. So how do you go build all these companies and then you go work for giant super machine company? It's actually kind of easy if you go to sort of a personal level. One, I had some success in the entrepreneur side. So I knew what it felt like to make a small company successful. I had no idea what it felt like to work in a company that had global reach instantly the day you start. I never had that experience. I didn't know the management practices or the business practices or the leadership practices that come with the luxury of a big company. I didn't know how to think about winning the world. I only knew how to think about winning a small market. So I was missing, I felt, a lot of my learning. I could grow in a lot of ways. And so my first choice was really about the job itself. The job before this one was I managed everything Microsoft did for students. That's what I did. And so it was a challenge, right? So the job was cool. So that wasn't hard. But it was also about working on a global scale. When you take a job, when you run a company like the 3D company, you're trying to get people on the internet to download a plugin. You think in thousands and thousands and thousands. And you think of the US and a few other big countries, right, if you can. When you start at Microsoft, you start off, okay, we are in 110 countries and over 60 languages. We manage through more than 110 different cultures, and then and you start with your mind. You just kind of go, Jesus Christ, how do I think about that? It's so big, but it teaches you. You get entirely new skills. So the decision was easy. The learning has been even better. I mean, what I know now, I wish I could take back into the small companies. because big companies understand structure and they understand process, which sounds really boring, but it is a blessing when you're in a small company because you can run much faster if you have just a little bit of structure and process. So it's things like that. That's what the decision was about. So will I run another company someday? Maybe. I don't know. But this is pretty fun, right? I get paid to do this.
So I have another question about this. So you're being entrepreneur inside Microsoft?
I think so.
Yeah. So how come you decide to enter into a big firm and to stay there? I mean, you in personal, okay?
Yeah.
Every student here that they're going to decide in 1-2 years what are they going to do with their lives.
Start a company.
Yeah. If they want to be entrepreneurs in a big company, what are the facts, the figures they should look for into a big company?
That's a whole different presentation.
Yeah, I know.
So
Just
I would say I'll give you two that I think are really important. To be an entrepreneur inside a big company requires the same things that it takes outside a company, which is you're going to have to make your own rules, like it or not. You know, in Microsoft, in order to start the program DreamSpark, which is what my team did, we had to break a lot of rules. And it took us over a year to get through all of the problems to do it. It was literally reviewed by Bill Gates to be approved. I had to go one-on-one with Bill. And so you have to be, remember I said don't have a plan B? It was the same thing. We had to be all the way through. You have to take it all the way through. So that's an important part. You can't believe that the way it runs is the only way it runs. You have to find new ways and different ways to do things. And just like outside of a company, you have to come up with an idea and you have to be willing to take it. You know, we had an idea. We should give away the software. People are like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? People pay us for that. Yeah, but we want a different relationship with the students. Let's do something different. Go, go, go. I was told no 10,000 times. Easy. Well, okay, maybe not 10,000. 1,000 times. I mean, if we were like, no, we don't want to talk about that. We don't talk about that. So basically, you had this level of management. You had this level of management. Then you had the senior sort of president level. So everyone here is like, it's just blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay. I call up, I do a review with the guy who's the president of the division. I want to talk about students, give them some inside information. Bam, let me tell you about this idea I have, right? That's how you do it. It's the same as when you're outside of a company. You're just doing it inside a different set of rules, and you got to break some of those.
Great. We have time for one last question, if anybody wants to fire it. Okay, so thank you very much, Joe. Nobody did the last question?
No, nobody
So
did the last question.
I'm doing it.
Okay. Go.
I'm good.
Are you going to ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, not yet, sorry.
I have.
He's going to ask a question. He was serious.
I'm serious. I'm serious enough.
Okay, last question.
So, we are not in the United States.
True.
We are not in Silicon Valley. We are not in the Boston area.
And by the way, no company I started was in any of those areas.
Okay.
Ever. Colorado, Tennessee.
So,
Not really known for their venture capital.
For the young people here in the room, we have some entrepreneurs in the video game sector, advertising. We have also have here some 3D experts.
Nice.
So, yeah. yeah, you guys over there. So, just one last advice to these young entrepreneurs in Spain, not in the United States. What will be their next step? They are thinking, they are trying to build their dreams, their companies. What will be the next step for them?
Well, I mean, you have to make a success locally no matter where you are first. So to be a success on a global scale, you have to be a success here. Start with a city, start with a country, you go further than that. So, you stay focused, stay very focused. If you are technical which means your technical people focusing on a technology get some business sense, some business advice, business plans, markets, customers, pricing, those types of things. That's your next step. You need to take great technology and get it packaged for someone to buy it. Very, very important move. If you're a business and you have an idea, you need to test if that idea is too easy to replicate. See, technology has a defensible position. You can defend it because someone has to build it. But if it's just a business idea, you need to make sure that it's something unique and original. So your next step is to make sure that you have something that's unique and original. Because if 10 other people have done it and they're bigger and they've been going longer, find another idea. So the next step is that. But be successful here first. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what country you're in. I was in Portugal last week. There are giant companies that started in that country, which is smaller than Spain, doesn't have the market size, and doesn't have as good a support, and they don't have any program like this. So it can be done. It doesn't matter if you're in Spain. It doesn't matter if you're in the U.S. It comes down to the people. It comes down to the people. That's what makes the difference. Okay?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias a la gente de Microsoft que ha tenido hoy un día terrible por todo Madrid. Muchas gracias a los sponsors, RCD, Global Incubator, Axon, SAGE que han acudido. Muchas gracias también a la Escuela de Negocios IEN, a la Cátedra Bancaja de Jóvenes Emprendedores, y muchas gracias a vosotros por acompañarnos hoy una noche como esta. ¿De acuerdo? Muchas gracias.